From the pages of MikeHuckabee.com, a fact-check daily dose of sanity in crazy times. By the way, you can have 2 doses delivered to your email inbox every day. All you have to do is sign up for my totally free newsletter. Well, right now, let's take a look back at another week that was. The New York Times and other liberal media outlets ghoulishly marked the 100,000th U.S. death from the Chinese coronavirus, and of course attempted to blame all of them on President Trump. But now questions are being raised about whether those numbers are actually reliable. A study by the Freedom Foundation of official COVID-19 death toll from the Washington State Department of Health found that 82% of deaths list some variation of COVID-19 as one of the causes of death on the death certificate. 5% of the death certificates do not list COVID-19 as a cause of death, but as a significant condition contributing to death. And 13% involve persons who had previously tested positive for COVID-19, but did not have the virus listed anywhere on their death certificate as either causing or contributing to death. Democrat Governor Jay Inslee assailed the report as dangerous, disgusting, and malarkey. Boy, Democrats love that word, don't they? Inslee also accused the Freedom Foundation of fanning conspiracy claims from the planet Pluto and not caring about lives lost to the virus, even though the conspiracy numbers came straight from his own health department. And President Trump signed a blistering new executive order targeting left-leaning social media companies who hide behind fact-checking as a means to push a partisan agenda and who also bury opposing viewpoints. President Trump took aim at the so-called liability shield social media giants enjoy. The president's move would allow users to take legal action against the big tech companies for censorship and bias. You know, the left shrieked about Facebook and Twitter in 2016, saying abuse on the platforms somehow led to Donald Trump's election and that they need to be held accountable. Well, bet you this isn't the kind of accountability they had in mind. Well, Keith is about to introduce you to some very angry people, but that's right after you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell below. And if you're enjoying this video, and of course you are, consider leaving a like and a comment. Now let's take some questions that you sent to my 2 cents mailbox. All right, Keith, what you got?
Well, Walter in South Carolina writes, the death of George Floyd by the police officer on the scene was brutal. The man was asking to breathe, and they stayed on his neck until he passed out and expired. What should be done to show justice in this situation and help safeguard others who live in urban America?
You know, Walter, I think it's very important that what the president did is exactly what needs to happen, and that is to bring the Justice Department in, someone completely independent of the Minnesota State Police and the Minneapolis Police, somebody who can look at this with fresh eyes, but to make really sure that those who did this are held accountable. You have to give due process to the officers, just as you do to every citizen, including George Floyd. But it's disturbing watching that video. It's one of the most disgusting and shocking things I think I've ever seen. And just from the surface of it, those police officers, they weren't making an arrest. They were carrying out an execution, and particularly the one whose knee was on the neck of that man. It's just unthinkable. So let's pray we get to the bottom of it. Let's pray that justice is done. And let's also pray that people will respect the life of George Floyd, not by burning things down and tearing them up, but by honoring him with their prayers and with some sense of civility. The worst thing they could do to dishonor George Floyd is to go and do something that is criminal, because that's what they're protesting, something being done criminally to George Floyd. I hope they'll think about that.
Well, Mike from Crystal, Minnesota is mad. He says, please remove Mike Huckabee's show from your lineup. Recently, he ridiculed the wearing of face mask. Mike seems to replicate whatever position Donald Trump takes. The fact that Mike ridiculed face masks, a life-saving device, shows how far off course he has gone. And to let him continue to air his skewed opinions on a supposedly Christian network is absolutely terrible.
Well, thank you, Mike, for such a kind response. First of all, where did you get that I ridicule face masks? I haven't. I've even worn face masks when I go to the supermarket, and if I fly, I have to wear one the entire time. So I've not ridiculed face masks. Now, the fact that you want my show to be removed from the air, boy, that's kind of a tough one. But where you get this is something that I don't even understand. Maybe it's because I did make a remark once that when Joe Biden was wearing a face mask out in the open air, not within 50 feet of anybody, it seemed a little bit more like he was wearing a gag so he didn't say anything ridiculous, which he tends to do. Maybe that's what you were talking about. I have no idea. But I'm happy if you want to wear a face mask. I'll wear one when I think it's appropriate, and I have, and will continue to. But in the meantime, be sure and keep enjoying our show. I hope you like it. Keith, what's next?
Okay, Valerie in Albuquerque is feeling troubled by Facebook. She says, I used to be on Facebook and they froze my account after I posted that I liked President Trump. I finally just closed it. Today, I tried to reopen it and got this message. Your account has been disabled because it doesn't follow our community standards. They invited me to request a review. I didn't do it, but it's wrong and something needs to be done.
Couldn't agree more. You know, my own Facebook account has been shut down on several occasions when some young whippersnapper out there in Silicon Valley decided that he or she didn't like what I was saying. Well, good news, the president has signed an executive order. He's now looking into holding these big social media companies accountable for their system of picking the winners and losers, who gets to talk and who doesn't. Let me try to make this as simple as I can. There's two different approaches social media companies can take. They can either see themselves as common carriers, like the telephone company. They provide the lines and the wires, and we get to say whatever we want to on the telephone lines with nobody listening in and nobody getting to say, oh, we're going to cut you off because we don't like that you're talking about voting for someone that we don't want you to vote for. The phone company doesn't get to do that. If you commit a crime using the telephone, you can get in trouble for that, but that's a whole different thing, and it's not the phone company that comes after you. It's law enforcement. Now, the other option is you can be a publisher. A publisher means that you control the platform and you have editorial control over the content. And in that realm, you do get to say, this is not going to be acceptable conversation. But here's the rub. If you want to be a publisher, then you're going to be held legally accountable and liable for things that are said about other people using that platform. If I were the social media companies, I would say, hey, we're not going to monitor and referee speech. We'll let the marketplace do that. If somebody feels offended, they can sue. They can get involved in filing a complaint. But we're not going to try to be the referee of free speech. That's how it's supposed to work. That's what the president is pushing for. And I say, thank you, Mr. President. It's about time. What else, Keith?
Well, Jan, the Cornhusker writes, you have a great show that I've recently found on YouTube. It seems to me that since that the states can keep track of millions of individual lottery tickets with their little machines, why not do the same as people vote or ballots come in? There should not be any repeats or fake voting.
Boy, that's a great point, Jan. I think you're exactly right. There's certainly technologies that exist so that people can have some level of security in voting, whether it's by mail or over the internet. But if we don't have that level of security, what we would have is millions of ballots just being randomly mailed out to the most recent address with no ability to determine whether or not the intended voter was the one who received the ballot and the one who mailed it back in, or if the person who did mail it back in was even a registered eligible voter. That's why without some checks and balances, careful checks and balances, it means that our entire election system could be defrauded. That is not something we could ever accept or take for granted. Now, from the Twitterverse, where you can follow me at GovMikeHuckabee, comes these moments of madness. First up, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam admitted that he made a mistake by venturing out in Virginia Beach without a mask on during the coronavirus pandemic. He said he takes full responsibility for the gaffe just moments before announcing a statewide mandate requiring people to wear a face mask in public spaces. But not before he got in some pictures with citizens at the beach who were also not wearing masks. Physician, heal thyself, tweeted Todd Gilbert, a Republican who is Virginia's House Minority Leader. Illinois 4th Judicial Court Judge Mike Mahaney unloaded on Governor J.B. Pritzker's still in effect stay-at-home order, and boy, he didn't hold back. I think this guy ought to be in the Supreme Court. Judge McHaney said this in part: since the inception of this insanity, the following regulations, rules, or consequences have occurred. I won't get COVID if I get an abortion, but I will get COVID if I have a colonoscopy. Selling pot is essential, but selling goods and services at a family-owned business is not. If I go to Walmart, I won't get COVID, but if I go to church, I will. And here's the knockout punch. Judge McHaney states, when laws do not apply to those who make them, people are not being governed. They're being ruled. Make no mistake, these executive orders are not laws. They are royal decrees. Illinois citizens are not being governed. They're being ruled. End quote. I've got a question. Did anyone in Illinois vote for a monarch? Yeah, I didn't think so. As we consider the dominant mentality of many elected officials these days, let's not forget the little ditty someone once wrote about socialism. If you think, don't speak. If you think and speak, don't write. If you think, speak, and write, don't sign it. If you think, speak, write, and sign it, don't be surprised. Let's do our very best to preserve our rights and keep America free. And until next time, these are the facts of the matter.
Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, then subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Now, if you didn't like it, you ought to find a Ben Shapiro video to detox you with more facts.